Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another new vlog, and thank you for joining me once again. I don't know how well you can tell from looking at me, but spring has well and truly sprung now. The sun is out and it's very warm. I've got to tell you that for the beginning of April, surprisingly so. But I thought I would come out and try and make the most of this good weather, but also I've got a couple of things I want to tell you about, because time is moving on, life is moving on, and so am I, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. So I gave you a little bit of a spoiler just then, folks. I've been living in the same house ever since I was a young child. Basically I've been there now 37 years, and in about 2 or 3 weeks time I should be moving on from the place that's been my home for so long to somewhere new and different. I've got to be honest, I'm not going that far, only about 2 miles or so from where I am at the moment, but also it's just that little bit closer to where I'm standing right now. Not very much, but obviously 2 miles closer makes quite a big difference when it comes to taking opportunities to get out and shoot, because it means that I can come to this spot and get here a lot quicker, set out a lot earlier, get myself out and about and sorted and taking a few photos before anywhere gets too busy, which is a good thing. So that's going to be an interesting opportunity in the future, but also I'm hoping that the area where I'm going to be living is going to open up other opportunities for me in the future as well. So I'm going to do my best to try and take some of those opportunities in the future. I've got one other thing to tell you as well, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little while, because I seem to have stumbled on a spot here where I think there may be a few compositions, and I'm just trying to work out exactly where the shots are that I can take, because this area is absolutely beautiful. Once again, I've done one of my favourite little tricks of cutting off down a path that I've never walked down before and wondering what's down here. And on this occasion I'm really glad that I did that, because I think I've found something quite interesting. So I'm going to stop here and see if I can find a couple of shots, and then I'll tell you more about what's going on. So I don't know how well you can see it, just behind me on the ground here I've got the sun obviously shining through all the trees and lighting up this little patch of ground here, and there's a path that runs up here which runs kind of along here right behind where I am, and just as the path enters like a bit of a cut-in, there's this beautiful bit of light that's streaming down through the trees, and just at the end of it there's a very brightly lit tree which is surrounded by a lot of other trees that are all very, very dark. And I don't know why that is, why all of a sudden that sunlight has just caught that tree, but it looks beautiful from where I'm standing. And I mentioned these shadows and the light streaming through on the floor. The shadows and the light itself are leading towards that tree just at the top of the hill there. So I think there's going to be a portrait orientation shot here as well. But what I've noticed, there's also a tree at this side of the path with a branch that kind of comes out diagonally here, and that kind of frames the scene quite nicely. So I'm looking at cropping in so I've got a decent shot, so I'm just around the edge of where this tree is and around the edge of this branch, so I've got this branch in the top of the frame framing all that sunlight, and then the sunlight is leading you towards that beautiful tree that's in the light as well, with a few other trees dotted around in darkness. So I'll set this one up and take this shot, and then I'll tell you a little bit more. I've just taken 4 shots of that scene and I don't know which one I prefer. I realised quite quickly that the 17 to 40mm lens that I'm using now for filming wasn't really going to be the right lens for a portrait orientation shot of that, because I wasn't close enough to the tree to be able to capture that properly. It was creating a crop that was too wide even at 40mm. Now obviously I could have walked a little bit further into the scene myself, so I got a little bit closer to the tree and corrected the composition, but the problem with that was, if I'd walked a little bit further into that composition myself, my own shadow would then start being encroaching into the light that I wanted to capture. so that wouldn't have been any good, so I stayed where I was. So instead what I did was opened up the 70 to 300mm lens, put that on my camera and shot at 70mm. A portrait orientation at 50mm to start with. 50mm looked just about right as a portrait orientation shot, but I also decided to try the 70 to 300mm while I was there, and the 70mm, shooting at 70mm portrait orientation, looked like a very slightly too tight crop, so I turned the camera back into landscape orientation with the 70 to 300mm lens on the camera still, and corrected the composition and took that photo with the 70 to 300mm at 70mm in landscape orientation, and it looked a little bit better. But then, just as an afterthought, while I was switching the 17 to 40mm lens back onto the camera to start recording video again, I thought to myself, well, why not have a look if the composition is any good at 40mm as a landscape orientation, which I'd decided against in the first place. So there should be 4 images there, and I can't decide exactly which one of them I'm going to be most impressed with. So I'll show you all 4 of them, and you let me know in the comments which one you prefer. So I said there was something else that I wanted to tell you about as well. I mentioned that times are moving on. Back in January of this year, I started working at a local charity shop, which is a homeless charity, and all the work that they do is designed to try and help people who are less fortunate than the rest of us, who don't have a roof over their head, put a roof over their head and make sure they can feed themselves at night. So that's been quite interesting. The reason I didn't mention it originally is because I didn't know how long I was going to stay there and whether it was going to work out or not. So it's just one of those things that I've been doing now for 3 months, and I just wanted to let you know about it. I'll show you some photos of what I've been up to, but basically I've been upcycling furniture. So we get furniture into the store which needs to be either repaired, painted, stained or anything like that, and we just basically tart it up and make it look nice and then sell it on so that the store can make some money. So all of that work then means that the homeless charity that I'm working for can then help other people get back on their feet and start their life again, essentially. And I'm really kind of proud with what I'm doing and the work that I'm doing, and I hope that you like some of the images of some of the furniture that I've been repairing and restoring. Basically, I hope you enjoy what I've been up to. It's kind of a new chapter for me anyway, something that I would never have thought of doing last year or the year before, but I'm glad I started it this year. So that's an interesting one, and I'm hoping that develops into something a little bit more further down the line. But for now, I'm going to carry on walking and see if I can find another photo in this woodland that I've not walked through in this direction before. Well, this is a lovely spot. It's a spot that I've never been to before, but it's one that I've looked at trying to get to quite a few times before and thought better of it, either because it was too overgrown to get here, or I didn't think there was a composition here, or it was a bit too wet and boggy here. And at the moment it's fairly dry. Just behind me you can see a lake just literally over my shoulder just here, and just up a little way from the lake there's a path that runs along here. You can see this path that I walked down here, but along the edge of there's another path that runs through the woodland behind here, and all throughout there are quite a few areas where there are lots of rivers and rivulets and kind of waterways that lead into this lake here. And the problem is, of course, when you're walking along the path, that gets very, very muddy and you can't walk at all along there. So what the park authorities have done here is they've set up a lot of these wooden walkways, just individual ones every 10 or 15 yards or so, where you can literally walk across these little bits of waterways that are draining into the lake here. So that's quite interesting, but obviously you can't see them from where I'm standing now, and I've kind of walked along there previously several times to try and get shots of this area, and I wanted to come here and see if I can get as close to as I could to the lake here, because there's nobody here at all, and I can take a few shots from here if I believe there are any compositions here without anybody bothering me. And yet just a few yards away there's going to be people walking past me at all times, so I'm kind of out of the way a little bit and managing to capture some interesting photos here if I really want to, and keeping away from all the people trudging past as I'm trying to take photos, which can be a good thing. Just as I'm standing at the edge of the lake here, I'm noticing that the path that I've walked down, there's a couple of trees on it. One just here right in front of me, one at the back of the pathway where I've walked down, kind of right next to the path with the wooden walkways on it, and then there's one just at the other side of that path as well, and the composition from here looks quite good, and the light that's streaming through onto the trees is absolutely beautiful. So I'm thinking I might just stop here and take a photo of that, kind of the path leading up around these trees towards the other path. Hopefully that makes an interesting composition, portrait orientation, because it's quite a narrow little walkway through there, and I hope you like this image. Wouldn't you just know it, the one spot in the park where I thought I might have managed to avoid people on this, the last Friday, Good Friday, the last Friday before Easter Sunday, with beautiful sunshine, warm weather, lovely spring day, and the one place in the park where I thought I might be able to stand without coming into contact with people and getting people in my shots. And I stood here, set up the shot ready, set up the camera was ready to go, and just as I was about to take the shot, a bunch of kids came through this cutting here behind me, and decided they wanted to come and play near the lake right next to me. Whilst they were there, of course, two women appeared, who I can only assume must have been parents of the kids that had come into this little cutting, and they decided they wanted to stand right slap bang in the middle of the shot where I was about to take the shot. So I kind of turned slightly the other way, took my phone out of my pocket and started looking at my phone as if I was minding my own business, because obviously I couldn't take a photo of them while they were stood there. I was stood there about 5 minutes, and I thought, any minute now I'm just going to tell you to piss off and get out of my way, because quite frankly I was simply trying to capture a photo, and there's people coming this way now as well. But thankfully those kids and their parents, or who I assume were their parents, eventually decided to move away and allow me to get on with taking the photo. So that wasn't too bad after all. The light was still okay when I got round to actually taking the photo, so I've managed to get something fairly decent by the looks of things. So I'm moving on now to see if I can find perhaps one last more shot of the day for this vlog. I realise it's gone on quite a while now, because I've been talking about the other things that I've started doing and the fact that I'm moving house soon as well. So I hope you managed to stay with me this long. I'm just looking for one more image and then I'll call it a day. Just one quick question for you. Do you reckon this tree here is on slightly more of a slant than it normally is? I've photographed it several times on this channel, in fact, at different times of the year, and it just looks as though it's kind of slanting slightly more in that direction since the last time I came here. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but it doesn't look as though there's any problem with it. It just looks as though it's slanting more than I remember it. Oh well, I'll see if I can take a photo of it here. I don't know exactly where the best composition of it is at this time of year, so I'm going to have a quick look round and see if I can find a composition that I haven't taken of this tree previously, and I hope you like that image. Okay, so I've lost my temper with somebody just now. What is it with people who want to park themselves right in the middle of the shot that I'm trying to take? I was stood here about to set up the camera when I was talking to you earlier, and a guy on his push bike cycled past on the path, disappeared off into the woodland, and I thought, well, he's gone now, I can take the photo. Set the camera up, put the camera onto the tripod, set everything up ready to take the shot, literally just about to press the shutter button when he rode back into the scene coming the other way. Where did he stop? Where did he stop? That's right, stopped, leaned his bike up against the tree that I was trying to photograph, looked straight at me knowing full well that the camera was on that tree. Didn't bother moving, just stood there staring at me as if I was in his way. So I told him, piss off, get out of the way, I'm trying to take a photo. Eventually he disappeared. But while I was stood there waiting for him to move out of the way, I noticed that the light was moving very slightly. So it was moving away from the first tree that I wanted to photograph, this one here, and moving a little bit further round. So this one, just the other side of it, this one here. So you can see the light on that now is perfect, but earlier it was perfect on the tree slightly further away. I managed to get a shot of that one on its own anyway, because I quite liked it still, even with the deteriorating light on the side of that tree. But then as I moved around and saw how the light was on this tree, I decided to stop a little bit longer and capture a shot of this tree with the other tree slightly in the background as well. So I hope you like those images. I've had enough today of people just parking themselves right in front of where I want to be taking a photo. I know it's a public park and I've got to accept that everybody has to use it, and that's fine by me. But sometimes when it's pretty obvious that I'm just about to take a photo, rather than stop where you're stopping, move about 10 yards further on, you'll be out of the way. And it's that easy. But no, people have to be bloody awkward, don't they? I don't know why that is, but it's just the way it is. So if you guys have enjoyed me ranting on about moving house and starting a new job in a charity shop and people basically walking into my shop when I'm trying to take a photo, then please remember to give the video a thumbs up, and please also remember to subscribe to my channel. You can see more content like this in the future, and I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.